Hey, look what FedEx finally decided to deliver. So yes, today we're taking a look at this 4-pack. I forget the name of it. It'll probably be in the video title. But it's the one where they remolded or repainted a bunch of different figures from a lot of years, actually. Well, 3 of them fairly recent, 1 of them not so much. But yeah, here's the Versus 4-pack with Prime Cliffjumper, Squeezeplay, and Locos, I think, is the name of the Titan Master. Prototype Tarantulas, which I think I remember seeing on TFW. This is actually supposedly a separate character called Tarantulas, like Tyrant. And then Cyberverse Universe Tarn. And for the most part, it's a lot of the same figures that we've seen before, just in different colors. So Cliffjumper is Chase, Legacy Chase. Tarantulas is Tarantulas. Tarn is Tarn. And Squeezeplay is a very extensive re-application of Titan's Return Mind Wipe. So yeah, here's the set. Here's everyone. I'm probably going to be glossing over these two because I've already... I didn't make a video on Tarantulas yet, but I definitely made one on Tarn. I'm pretty sure I made one on Mind Wipe, but this is just Legacy Tarn with different colors. And this is just Legacy Tarantulas with different colors. So I'll be kind of glossing over them. The main ones I'm going to be focusing on are Cliffjumper and Squeezeplay, because even though Cliffjumper is derived from the Chase mold, I never got Chase. So this is the first time I'm experiencing this mold. And Squeezeplay is based off of Mind Wipe, but definitely not just Mind Wipe in different colors. As a 4-pack, this makes absolutely no sense, and I'm totally okay with that. It is a little bit like they're being silly, which I appreciate silly, but it's like you've got Prime, Cyberverse, Beast Wars, specifically a Beast Wars prototype, and G1, what were these, like Headmaster Juniors? So it's kind of... This is just like a multi-universe hodgepodge of figures, and the thing that connects them all is, for some reason, they've got it in for Cliff. It's silly, but I mean, any excuse. Speaking of any excuse, I do not appreciate the fact that 2 of these figures are only available in this 4-pack. I did not get this. I'm one of those rare people where I did not get this for Squeezeplay. I got this for Cliffjumper. And the fact that you can only get Prime Universe Cliffjumper, at least as of this recording, through this 4-pack, and you can only get Squeezeplay through this 4-pack, really sucks. I mean, yes, you can only get this Tarantulas and this Tarn through this 4-pack as well, but these are the same well, Tarantulas has a new head, but like these are the same figures that you could get readily in various ways. Like, you've got Legacy Tarn or Bludgeon, you've got Tarantulas, then you've got the premium Tarantulas, and there was another Tarantulas repainted in another multi-pack, I believe. So yeah, Tarantulas gets around, but this is the only way to get this Cliffjumper and Squeezeplay, and it's just, I don't like that. I don't like it. It really bugs me that they've got, in particular with the Prime stuff, because while I don't agree with making all of the remaining Titan's Return style Headmaster monster bots, like, Fangry was in a multi-pack too. So like all of these monster bots are showing up in multi-packs, which is kind of eh. But like with Cliffjumper, what bugs me about him is we've had Prime RC and Prime Bulkhead knockout. We've had more characters from Prime, and Dreadwind, Skyquake, or Dreadwing and Skyquake, rather. Like, there have been lots of Prime Universe figures released on their own, but Cliff, one character that, like, people definitely would want to get, you can only get through the 4-pack. Same deal with Breakdown. You can only get Breakdown in a 2-pack. And that bugs me. Anyway, I think, yeah, okay, I've been talking for 5 minutes already. I need to stop rambling about this, but point is, I'm not a big fan of how that was handled. But with all that out of the way, this is actually a pretty nice 4-pack. I do have to admit, even though I got the set just for Cliff and was planning on selling everyone else off just to have Cliffjumper, I kind of really like everybody. So I don't know that I'm going to be selling anybody else off, but we'll get to that. Since I said we're going to be glossing over Tarantulas and Tarn, let's just start with them. So, whoop. I bumped my light very hard. Let's get Cliff and Squeezeplay out of the way. And let's start with Tarantulas, because this is probably the one most people are least interested in. So he is a big orange spider. The gold on the orange doesn't come through super clearly, but I kind of like how it almost blends in a little bit. There's something about that that just appeals to me. It's like a tangerine that sprouted legs and became an evil scientist, I guess. The coloring is a bit weird, though. Like the bright orange, and then you've got this like very dull, almost metallic green, which you'll see more of in the robot mode. It's just very like, eh. And then around the front, you do have, oh, is that a paint scratch? That is a paint scratch. Oh well. Yeah, got a paint scratch on one of his mandibles. But here you've got the spider mode face, you got silver eyes, which do at least stand out on the orange, and then these little pincers. Like these, you would think these would be like spider fang mandible things, but he's already got those here, so I don't know. But yeah, it's funny. I never made a video on tarantulas, but this is a good figure. I remember the one I originally got was actually missing one of the legs out of the box, so I had to get a replacement. But good figure. If I actually cared about Premium Dinobot, I would probably get that 2-pack so I could have a Premium Dinobot and Premium Tarantulas, but there are just too many other things that tempt me more than that set right now. But yeah, he's a bright orange spider with grayish silver legs that's really weird and contrasty, but as I understand it, this is meant to be like a prototype homage, so I can kind of get why the colors are a bit odd. I appreciate them. It is garish and weird, but I appreciate them. It's kind of like that one Black Arachnia from that other multi-pack that was like, had like leopard print and stuff on her. It's very weird, but I really appreciated how garish that figure was too, so yeah. This works. And if anyone wanted to change out the biceps for other colors with other Tarantulas figures, you could easily do that because they're just mushroom pegged in here. So you just pop off the whole bicep section, swap in a separate pair of Tarantulas legs, and then you're good to go. It might improve the robot mode, but it probably, or the Tarantula mode, but it probably wouldn't work too well with everything else going on here. But we'll get to that more in robot mode. But yeah, there's Tarantulas. And Tarn. Cyberverse Universe Tarn is just Legacy Tarn with different colors and now a sword. He's got Bludgeon Sword. Mine is ever so slightly bent. It was bent in the box. Oh well. And this is not soft plastic. This is actually solid plastic. I'm genuinely surprised. But it is a little bit bent. But you can plug it in various spots. Wherever you've got a peg hole in there, you can see how it curves. I prefer to do it this way because the curve is less obvious and it kind of matches the angles of the tank. But aside from the sword, this is just Legacy Tarn. Nothing new here, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Legacy Tarn is a solid figure. The colors here are kind of interesting. He's very dark, except for these hits of purple that are much, much brighter by contrast. And also this glowing bit right in the front here. Yeah. And there's his head. We'll see more of that later. But it's the same somewhat awkward-looking tank. Same gripes that I have with the original Legacy Tarn, like the treads just being a solid mass. Well, actually, no. My problem with Legacy Tarn was they painted the treads out here, but not here. The Repro Label set does fix that. This Tarn, though, you get no painted detail in the treads. All the paint is in the what becomes the robot chest and the robot back, the legs, and the midriff section. So yeah, it's duller than Legacy Tarn. I don't mind it, but it is a bit of a departure, and I don't know. I don't remember enough about Cyberverse Tarn to know how this is supposed to look color-wise, but it's just a little too dull for my liking. I definitely appreciate the hits of brighter purple here, but overall, I kind of wish some of these colors were a little bit brighter. It could be that Tarantulas has me spoiled because he's just so garish, but I wouldn't have minded this Tarn being a little bit more intense in terms of coloring. Oh, and while we're here, you can blast effect over the pegs on the little front cannons or blast effect in the peg holes on the big cannons, so you can do that. Okay. Now we'll talk about Cliff, because that's another repaint. I'm saving Squeezeplay for last because Squeezeplay is basically a new figure, even though he is derived from Mindwipe. I don't know the proper way to store the weapons on Cliffjumper, and I honestly do not intend to keep the weapons on him. Let's see. No, that doesn't work because they stick out too far. I don't intend to keep the weapons on him. If anything, I may keep this piece out, but the rest are just going into a baggie. But this is how I have them plugged on. They are very dark, smoky, clear plastic, but they are clear. And they don't look fantastic, but they don't look terrible either. It's not like this where you've got a sword just sticking off the side of a tank, but it's still not great. But if we get rid of these, it works pretty well as Prime Cliffjumper. It's I don't have, like I said, I don't have Chase, and I never cared enough to pay that much attention to Chase, but the shape, I believe, is very much, if not the same, it's very similar to Chase. But it's red now, so much more Prime Cliffjumpery, and also they did the horns on the front, which I love. And yeah, there's not a whole lot going on here color-wise. You mostly just got the the red with silver rims, which I do like that they painted the rims. They painted the exhausts on the sides too. Love that. Painted the door handles, have teeny tiny Tampergraphed Autobot logos on the sides, and also grill on the front. And the horns, I love that they did the horns. And there's a little bit of black paint back here to make the side windows match a little bit better with the rest of the car. This is translucent plastic, and this has been painted red to try and match. It doesn't match perfectly, but it does blend in relatively well with some of the other slightly mismatched red tones on this vehicle. I don't know. I'm used to it by now. It doesn't bother me terribly, but it would be nice if it was just a little bit closer to matching, but I think it's like different qualities of plastic, so they couldn't get it spot on. And around back, it is all molded in here, and you've got the taillights done in gunmetal for some reason, and also I'm noticing some paint slop right there. So that's fun. I noticed this before, there's some paint slop up there. So yeah, cool. I mean, it's fine. I'll survive. It just bums me out. Also, there's some kind of weird marring that was going on with my Cliffjumper. Where like right here, you can kind of see it, and right in here. He came like that out of the box. I noticed that before I ever transformed him. I don't know what happened. I tried to scrape some of it off with an X-Acto knife to, just kind of flatten it out a bit, because you can see this side sticks out ever so slightly while this one sits relatively flush, but I'm just not sure what to do, because my attempts to very carefully scrape this excess plastic off didn't really work, and I didn't want to risk actually carving into plastic that I didn't want to get rid of. So for now, this is just staying like this. I may go after it again in the future under a magnifier, I don't know. But yeah, Cliff's vehicle mode, for being a repaint, works really well, and the transformation of this guy is really interesting, but we will get into that later. And finally, we have Squeezeplay and Locos, if that's his name. I could be mispronouncing that. The reason I just have him sitting in here with the door open is because you can put him in here and like peg him in using the little tab thing here and the little slot there, but he pegs in really solidly and I need to use a spudger to get him out, so I'm not doing that. But that's where he sits. Otherwise, we can just close up the little cockpit section. Yeah, he doesn't have a see-through cockpit like most of the other monster bots, but what can you do? Yeah, there is Squeezeplay. Looking at Locos real quick. He is a Titan Master. He's just a little guy. Just a little guy with a visor that kind of blends into the slightly pinkish purple that they used for most of the plastic here. Also, these legs are very easy to pop off, which kind of sucks. And it's not a tightening the screw thing. They just clip on, and something about the way he came together, I think these just don't hold on super well. It also doesn't help that this joint is really tight, so trying to bend this usually makes this want to pop off. I may end up going in with some floor polish to tighten that up, I don't know, but yeah, it's just a little Titan Master, some nice molding, no paint except for the little face and what's going on back here, but that's for the robot mode, so very simple, but it's a Titan Master. Same articulation and all that. Now, the monster itself. The easiest way to tell that this is derived from Mindwipe is the head that kind of swings up, kind of like the bat head. The arms that would have been wings on Mindwipe, and then the legs are totally just Mindwipe beast mode legs. They don't like to tab in all the way, which I think has to do with the paint, but that's fine. This guy does have pretty loose, like they're not flopping, but the ball joints on what become the robot mode shoulders are a little bit annoyingly loose. But yeah, this guy is an interesting and weird little thing. He's got the gun, which I don't really know where there's a good place to store the gun. It can't store under here, which seems like a missed opportunity. But you can peg it in like there. You can, if you, I was messing around with this before, if you wanted to, since he's got peg holes on the insides of all of his claws, you could just peg the gun into his claw and have him wielding it like that. So you do have places to put the gun. I just peg it back here because it gets it out of the way, because that tail is kind of a dire little tail, but it's fine for what it is. Like, this is a G1 Headmaster Junior homage. I don't expect it to be super incredible with its weapon storage. So yeah, this guy, it's very blot. It's very blot-esque, where he's got these enormous claw arms, stumpy legs, and a kind of hunched monster head. It's very snake-like. And I've seen people point this out, and I agree that it does kind of look a little bit better if instead of, because this is designed to clip over here, and then there's like this little peg that sits in here. Like, it's designed to go like this. But I do agree with what I saw on TFW, where if you disconnect it and just kind of push it down, it kind of looks a little bit better. The hood going over the arms, I think, works better too, to sell it as like a more solid thing, even though if you look at it from the side, there is gappage. But I think from other, like most angles, it looks a little bit better when he's hunched more. And if you hunch it like this, you can still there's just enough room to access the Titan Master cockpit. And yeah, I don't know, he's neat. There's one thing that does kind of bum me out about this whole thing, though, is they and this is just Mind Wipes mold in general, all of these like mushroom pegs and joints and stuff, like in biceps for the monster mode or the thighs for the monster mode, they all end up on the outside in robot mode, which is a little unsightly. I've thought about swapping them around to see if that makes a difference. It might, I don't know. But it's just, like the legs I can't really swap. That's not really going to work unless maybe if I rotate the waist around, but then you'd have like peg holes in front. I don't know. I'm going off track. But it's a thing we'll see more in robot mode. But I do like the colors on this guy. The this pinkish purple looks great with the blue, and the off beige, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's an interesting choice. It doesn't bother me on this guy like this kind of almost intentionally pre-yellowed plastic aesthetic they went for with like a Studio Series Transformers 1 Prime does. Because here I think it fits more. Like the beige kind of works with the blue and the purple, and also it's a G1 toy homage, so it's almost kind of fitting and even a little bit silly in a fun way that they would choose to go with a color like this for what's supposed to be a G1 toy. I don't know. I think it's fun. But yeah. He is a clawed monster thing. The head is very nicely detailed. The whole head section is very nicely detailed. It's got a very Serpentor or G.I. Joe Cobra vibe. And the teeth and eyes are painted, which look good. The eyes do blend in a bit with the head, but you can still kind of make out the red. You can't do anything with the head, though. Like you can move this armature if you don't have it plugged in, but once it's plugged in, like you can't do anything. You can like look down if you want and hunch forward if you want. That's it. Doesn't move left and right. Can't open and close the mouth. That kind of stinks. I think, if I remember correctly, Mind Wipe had an opening and closing mouth. For the rest of it, the robot mode legs are the monster mode arms, so you can get some forward and back motion, though these panels will get in the way of the backward motion. You can go in and out. You get bicep rotation. You get what basically amounts to elbows. And if you want, you can unplug these pieces for some added articulation, like a wrist or possibly elbow if you want to have it more like this. So you do have options. And then nothing at the waist, and then the legs, the hips can move at these joints. If you wanted to, you could have him standing up a bit more straight. But I don't really like that. I kind of like having the legs out at an angle because it just adds a little bit more. Like the wider base looks better for this body type, I think, and also it just kind of makes him look a little bit more like a hunched monster thing. So that's how I do it. But you've got those joints, you've got the big ball joints for the legs that can go out and in and rotate. You can also rotate the thighs a bit, but you want to be careful because the tops of these, what become the forearms, are painted, and you don't want to rotate it too far and like have it rub up against the hip piece. At least I don't. And that's it for the articulation of the monster mode. But pretty decent for what it is. It's more articulated than a lot of other monster bots that we've gotten in Titan's Return before. So yeah, that is everybody. So now, let's do those size comparisons. Get Squeezeplay can stay in the back because he is the tallest alt mode, because he's actually got legs and is standing up. There's Tarn. It's up a little bit more. And then bring in Tarantulas and Cliffjumper. So there is everybody. We'll bring in our size comparisons. So there we've got Oval Prime and Dinobot. Get over there. There we go. Dinobot and Samus. So there's how those all work together. And I did Dinobot because I figured it made sense to have Dinobot in his Dino mode so we could show him with Tarantulas. Big Voyager Deluxe. Unfortunately, this Dinobot has been it's been yellowing more since I did the video on this guy, and that's really unfortunate. I also started to notice there's like some weird residue on the heels. I don't know what's going on there. It's very strange. I'm thinking I might try and get a replacement for this Dinobot. We will see. But yeah, that's how all of that measures up. Let's get Dinobot and Samus and Overprime off camera. And we can bring back our other common size comparison. There is Velocitron Burnout. And compared to Cliffjumper, Burnout looks bigger. Not quite as long, but a little bit wider, definitely taller. But also, I would, once again, I've said this before, but like the transformation on Burnout is a lot simpler. So I think that's kind of fine. And just in case, it's Cyberverse, or it's Legacy Tarn, so, same deal. But there is Tarn with Burnout. So there is all of those comparisons. And then, of course, our most important size comparison of all. There is everyone. Oh, there we go. There is everyone with the duck tank. Okay, time for transformations, and we're just gonna do this kind of like how we did before, where we're gonna look at things in order of probable interest for everyone watching. So, Tarn, as I said, is just Tarn. I'm going to unplug the sword, unplug the guns, and the guns, there are these two tabs that tab in up here. So unplug the guns, and then what I'm going to do is rotate this peg around, and then unpeg the guns and plug them in. They're plugged in back here for vehicle mode. I like to plug them in up here for robot mode, and we will see why when we get to that. But for now, accessories off to the side. For Tarn, going to untab the feet. They tab in right around here and up here. So just untab from there, swing these up, and there you can see the tabs that the feet tab into. So bring that up. Going to untab the arms. They actually, if we get this out of the way, they tab into the thighs. So just untab that, and we can swing that down. Just to get it out of the way. And the legs, gonna bring down a bit, and we'll do the legs. So I'm going to rotate these red pieces. Rotate these around, and they will kind of in Legacy Tarn they clicked in place, like original Legacy Tarn. Here they don't really, but they do sit in place really solidly. But you want these to be straight against the backs of the calves, and then the way the legs fit together, it's kind of a hook tab, so rather than pulling apart, I want to slide them apart. So slide those apart, fold out the feet, and then that is the legs all done. Very simple. For the upper body, I'm going to actually should have swung these down to get them out of the way. So for the upper body, this piece unplugs. There's a tab, peg, whatever, right in here that pegs in right in one of these holes here. I think the center one? Yeah, the center one. I don't know that you have to plug it in, but it seems like you're supposed to. So anyway, you want to unplug that, rotate. No, we'll keep this like this because it gives us a little bit more clearance to fold this back to get it out of the way. So we're going to keep this like this for now. These, now we'll do the arms. The arms, you want to untab this, fold this tread section around and tab it in up here, fold this in, flip that in, straighten out the arm, rotate this panel around and rotate the forearm so that the arm is in its proper position. Again, open that up, flip the treads around and peg them in, flip this in, and peg it in, straighten out the arm, rotate it, and then flip that panel around. This panel on this guy doesn't like to stay in place as well as this one does. I don't know if it was like an assembly error or QC thing or like something with the packaging, but we'll see when we get to the robot mode. But like this doesn't like to stay in place when the cannon is attached. So anyway, arms pretty much done. Now we're going to rotate these small tread sections around partially. Just rotate them around a bit. Getting them around this is a little tricky, but rotate those around. You don't want to rotate them around all the way because you have to get this piece out of the way. This will fold down and push the head up. And then once you have enough room, you can kind of rotate these treads the rest of the way around. And then they actually squeeze in just a little bit, but they do squeeze in. And once they squeeze in, this panel comes in and actually tabs into the treads to hold them together. Then we can fold this panel up the rest of the way, and there's this little tab here that sits in this slot on the chest. Now that this is, because we had it folded back before, now we can rotate this around 180 degrees, bring it up, and it will tab into these slots on the treads that you can barely see because they're very dark plastic, but these come up and peg in. These pieces swing around and sort of soft lock into place at an angle. And lastly, can rotate the head around 180 degrees. I don't think the head rotation is strictly necessary for the transformation, but I prefer to do it because I think it gets it a little bit more out of the way for the tank mode, and so it sits just a little bit more flush when it's like the top sits a little bit more flush. Anyway, this will peg into the arm, and the way I have it configured, I like to use the peg in the back peg hole. So peg that in there. And with the guns pegged forward, it gives you, see here you can see the problem with this, but with the guns moved forward, they don't get in the way of the shoulder treads, which is a little bit of a problem if they're left kind of back. But there is the gun arm, and then the sword, for now, we'll just peg onto his back. And there is Tarn. Tarn's going to go off to the side. And then Tarantulas. Because, as I said, I didn't actually look at Tarantulas on the channel. He's got his weapons pegged in on his underside, so you want to unpeg the little circular saw thing and unpeg the crossbow thing. And the way the crossbow pegs in, you may actually have to lift the legs up a bit, but this does not peg in using the actual peg. What happens is there are these little slots in the waffling on the underside of the gun that peg over this piece here. Like these little half circle pieces are what tab in there and hold it in place. So these will go off to the side for now. Now, I'm going to unpeg the leg flaps. They just tab in right in here along the side of the body. And then you can also pull down a little bit to untab them from the spider head section. So that untabs, and then this whole arm will swing up, and that gives you an arm, and you can rotate the wrist, I guess, and there we go. Do I have... Yeah, okay. Lost my orientation for a minute. And then from this side, going to untab the piece there and pull down just a little bit to untab this section. And I'll show you from this angle. You want to swing the shoulder assembly out, rotate the wrist around, and there we go. For the underside, want to pull out the legs and then unfold them. And the way the legs work is interesting. Basically, what you need to do is going into spider mode, you want to rotate the knee in, like rotate the ankle up, rotate the knee, and then rotate it again. And you want this tab to go into the back of the calf. Then once that's in place, you need to get this peg hole over. There's like these two pegs on the inside of the back side of the spider. You can just barely see them, but like there's one right there. And what you do is you bend the foot down and then lower the leg in, and that will actually rather surprisingly guide the foot into place, and it just will go where it needs to go. It's kind of incredible how that works. But yeah, it's actually pretty easy to get those legs in there despite how it might seem. So open up and unfurl the legs. I'm going to keep him in this sitting position because we also want to disconnect this section here. There's a tab that's sitting in just on the inside here, so I'm going to kind of pull back and up a little bit, and that will unpeg it. And if I swing this out, you'll see there's the little cavity that this tab sits in. Now we can rotate everything around up here. So this whole thing will rotate around. These spider legs will get in the way. So we'll just get that out of the way for now. Rotate it around. And bring the legs down. Swing the arms down. And then the spider head pulls back and swings around. Actually, I want to keep him sitting so this can give this more clearance. This swings around and tucks into here. Okay, yeah, that's probably okay. The fang may be scratched because of me because I was pulling this out like this, but what you actually want to do is rotate the torso slightly because there's not enough clearance for this to get past that tab, so you actually want to rotate it a bit, bring it in, then rotate it back. And now this comes up and this tab will sit in this notch on the top of the spider head. And it does actually peg in. Unfortunately, the spider head isn't like solid enough. Like I wish that pegged in. I don't remember if I feel like this wasn't a problem on the original Legacy Tarantulas, but this does like to rock. Oh well. But yeah, there is Tarantulas or Tarantulas looking kind of ridiculous. For the weapons, you can plug each one into either hand, or you can peg them together. And there's actually a slightly longer peg on the buzzsaw that will actually allow you to peg it into the claw hand, and then the other peg will sit inside that opening. So you can actually have them hold it like this, which I prefer. So there's Tarantulas. Looking very, very colorful. And now, the reason I bought the set, Cliffjumper, I've already removed all of the weapons. So to transform this guy, it's Chase's transformation, so if you know that one, you know this one, but if you don't, it is very interesting. I'm going to take these flaps where the little exhaust pipes are and pop those up, and they flip up all the way, like little wings. I do wish these tucked away better in robot mode, but oh well. With those tucked away, these back sections tab in to the side here, and then they also tab in down here. And the easiest way to get the biceps taken care of is to kind of rotate them, because this tab needs to go on the inside here, and then there's this little, it's really hard to see right now, but there is like a piece of translucent plastic that sits between these two pieces here. So that kind of, it rotates into place when you're going into vehicle mode. So to go out of vehicle mode, you just rotate it to unplug everything, and then you can untab this. I need to zoom out again. And with that untabbed, you can kind of bring this out and swing the arm down. It's on this, you can't really see it very well, but there's this armature here. So you want to swing that around and then rotate the arm 180 degrees. Same deal here. Rotate this to get the tabs kind of out of each other's way. Unplug this from the back. Bring it around and rotate the arm around. And that will just sit like that. Now, the roof section, you kind of angle that down a little bit so that you can angle this out, because it goes in a little bit weird, but it kind of, like going into vehicle mode, you kind of have to transform it slightly and push it in like this, because there are these little slots here that tab in or go around these pieces on the hood section, on the inside of the hood section. So gotta look out for that. Also, I'm just now noticing there's a paint scratch here too. I just did not have, I don't think that was scratched when I did the video before. Maybe it did, like when I started doing the video. I don't know. I am having bad luck with the paint on Cliffjumper. Anyway, this comes out. All of this swings around. And then I'm just going to push that back into place for now. And now the legs are interesting. If you haven't seen it before, it's very, very actually kind of cool. So this front section untabs. And then these pieces also untab from each other. You can rotate this stuff in place. The headlight sections flip up. And then the bumper section of the car actually unplugs from the wheel section. Actually, it might be easier to fold this piece out first and then untab this and swing it around. And there you can see the tab that that's plugged into. So that untabs. This whole thing double hinges up and just kind of sits. And now these tabs on the sides of the gray strut are going to tab into these slots on the side of the inside of the wheel well. So this swings around and plugs in to there, and that gives you a leg. It's actually pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to do it again. Rotate this out. Rotate this out. Hinge this up. And then fold this around and tab it in. I'm just going to make sure that that's, yeah, okay, that's nice and plugged in. So there we go. That is the lower body taken care of. For the upper body, it's not much else to do. You just want to pull this down a little bit and pull this flap up. I like to do it rather than relying on friction to push it up because I don't want to scratch the paint off the horns, but bring this down and then this will tab over this tab right here in the midsection. Close that up. These little struts come up the rest of the way and kind of sort of soft lock in place. Well, the thing is, they don't normally. And then rotate the head around 180 degrees, and there is Cliffjumper, and this is the thing that I don't like about this, but more on that later. But I will say, real quick, since we're talking about Cliffjumper, I do want to say you may notice my shoulders are not flopping around. I've seen a lot of people talk about this both in videos and on TFW, that the shoulders just will not, like the shoulder struts won't tab into place. Super easy fix, like super easy. All you have to do is pull this chest flap out of the way and tighten this screw. That's all it is. This screw just needs to be tightened. You tighten that screw, and these struts should stay in place just fine. So that's how I fixed Cliffjumper. So if anyone else gets this guide, runs into the same problem, that should set you straight. So there is that, and then bring in his weapons. And for now I'm just gonna plug them onto his arms and stuff. We'll look at the weapons more when we look at the robot proper. but we'll just, I know this isn't where this goes, but we're just going to do this for now, just to get all that stuff out of the way. And finally, Squeezeplay. Very similar to Mindwipe, but not quite the same. Though, Locos, this is exactly the same as other Titan Masters. You just tuck the arms in so that they're straight up and down. I should zoom in so you can see this better. You tuck the arms in so they're straight up and down, break the knees so they're going backwards, and then fold this in. And that's it. And there you've got Squeezeplay's robot mode head. I find that the connection on this guy is the kind of connection that benefits from rotating the Titan Master head around 180 degrees. That's just for mine. It may be different for other copies of this figure, but that's what I do. But it's not strictly necessary. But there's the head. Now for the monster, I'm going to unplug the tail that also has the gun on it. That goes off to the side. I'm going to just kind of straighten these out for now to get them out of the way for now. I'm going to bring the head down. I'm going to rotate the shoulders around. This is because this is how I do it. You can, if you want, just do this, but I prefer swinging it around like this because I think that looks a little bit cleaner and it lets you bring the arms down just a little bit more. But I'm going to rotate this around, rotate this around, bring these arms up, and then rotate them around 180 degrees because you want 180 degrees because you want this bit on the outside. Open up the claws all the way, and then unclick this joint here. And these will just stay like this for now. I'm pretty sure you can tell why, because these pieces now have to rotate back around. So these need the clearance to swing past the hips. And they also need a little bit of space up here. So swing this around, fold that back, swing this around, fold that back, and we will get these situated once the arms are situated. But with those out of the way, now we can fold this flap down, and this will just tab in. There's a little thing there that tabs in right there, and that bulks out the chest. And bring these pieces down. Use those joints to get them like all the way down for the shoulders. I'm going to straighten out the arms and straighten them out. Untab them and straighten them out. And to rotate the monster thighs that are now robot mode biceps 180 degrees. And these just come down like that. And you can flip out the fists. And they will click into place, thankfully. So goes around, click them in. There we go. Bicep rotations are very clicky on this guy. It's a little bit weird. But with that done, you can bring these posts up the rest of the way. And then the head for the monster mode tabs in here, and then the chin tabs in here. So that comes up like that, and that plugs in like that. Gives him a little bit of a backpack, but it's not too bad. And there is Squeezeplay's body. I'm going to plug the tail into his arm to work as a shield. Put the gun in his hand to work as a gun. And then take the Titan Master head and plug it into the Titan Master port on top of the torso, and there we go. He is a Titan Master monster bot. But there is Squeezeplay. Now let's bring everyone else back in. So here is Tarn, Squeezeplay, Tarantulas, and Cliffjumper all together. And it is a strange collection of robots. As I said before, it's just a little bit like any excuse to put them all together. Oh, they're fighting. But that's okay. It's silly, but I kind of respect silly. So yeah, you've got 3 Deluxes and 1 Voyager. There you go. They do not match aesthetically, though I guess Squeezeplay, there's enough molded detail in there that it doesn't look entirely out of place next to Tarn. But yeah, this is a very disjointed collection of figures. All right, now we'll look at them all as we did before. So start with Tarn, get Tarn out of the way. Tarn is Tarn. He's just Legacy Tarn in other colors. But I don't mind this color scheme. I think this color scheme works better for the robot than for the tank. It is still very dark, but I like this kind of slightly reddish gray, this really dark reddish gray that they used for certain parts like the midriff, the thighs, the forearms. You get some more black in here. There's a little bit of burgundy for the biceps and the hips, and just a little bit you can see in the torso. You get these pops of brighter purple in the chest and, of course, the head. And like Legacy Tarn is a really good figure in its own right. This color scheme is a bit weird and muted, but I kind of don't mind it. I kind of like how it's a little bit weird looking. And I'm kind of curious to see what happens with the inevitable Reaper label set. Unfortunately, as I said, this does not like to stay in place, which is very annoying. It's just something about this connection. Like, it's okay. It's not like flopping, but it's very easy if you go to like rotate. Like, I tend to grab like this to rotate the forearm, and that ends up moving this panel, which is unfortunate. But since this is Cyberverse Tarn, if I really wanted to, and I kind of do want to, I can just give him the sword and then take this piece and have it set up as his Evo Fusion backpack. So we can just do this instead. Do this instead. Okay. Those need to swing down and out of the way for this to work. But I don't know. I feel like mixing it up with Cyberverse Tarn kind of works. It's possibly sacrilege. I don't know. But I kind of like it. And I do think it's cool to give Tarn a sword. I know this is Bludgeon's sword, and it makes more sense for Bludgeon, but I still think this is neat. Another thing that I was doing before with this guy was instead of doing the backpack guns, I was giving him the forearm cannons. So I just would plug one gun onto each forearm plate. And then this piece, I just plugged onto his back to get it out of the way. But I think that works too. You got options with this guy. And I don't mind using those options because this is the Cyberverse version of Tarn, not technically IDW Tarn. As for the head, well, actually, just looking at the body, you can see there's a little bit of gold in that midsection too, which is interesting. But yeah, the head. Get all this out of the way. The head is its Legacy Tarn's head, but painted a little bit more weird. I don't really know how I feel about this red stripe going along here, but it's a really good sculpt, and the colors, aside from like the bright red on the purple, I think work really well. The bright red on the purple is a bit, I don't know, I think that would have looked better on like a darker purple, but the brighter purple makes the head stand out on the body, so it's kind of a toss-up. But it is a good sculpted head, if nothing else. And I feel like the slightly more involved colors, slightly brighter colors, do work okay for this rendition of Tarn. Now for the articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so you get a little bit of side to side and some up, some down, and you get that 180-degree rotation. You just have to watch the chin. The arms can go all the way around, they can go out all the way, but they are trigger-happy shoulders, so beware of that. They can't go out from this position. You kind of have to swing them up like this, which isn't the best, but you can kind of work with it. You can use this joint here, which is a little bit loose. I might tighten that if I decide to keep this guy, I don't know. But you get that, you get bicep rotation, you get an elbow that bends slightly over 90. You do get wrist rotation. So you can rotate the wrists, you can open up the fingers. The wrist rotation on this wrist is very tight. I think something was going on with the assembly with this guy, like the wrist just had popped out of place and the hand wasn't seated properly, and I think that threw the rest of this off. But I don't know, maybe I can fix it. But both wrists do turn. You get a waist rotation. This piece does get in the way of the hip skirts. You can kind of... I think you can get around it by unplugging it. Like, you do have to unplug it, but you can unplug it and get the waist to go all the way around. I don't really think that's necessary because I feel like this is plenty of waist rotation without it, but it is what it is. The hips can go forward slightly past 90 and can go back a little bit past 90. They can go out to not quite 90 because of the just because of how all of this is coming together, but still pretty decently far. And also these little pieces in the waist section are separate, so they move when you move the hips forward and backward, but they actually mostly stay where they are when you move them out. It's an interesting assembly that I don't think they've really used on any other figures but Tarn or this mold. You get a thigh rotation that has gotten caught. I think, oh, that's what it is. Okay, it's this little piece here that sticks up ever so slightly is getting caught on the inside of the thigh piece. So you can't go all the way around with the thighs, but I don't think you really need to. You get a single jointed knee that bends past 90, but if you use that transformation joint, you can do a full bend, and it doesn't even look out of place. And then for the feet, they can go back and forward quite a bit, and you do get ankle tilt. The ankle tilt isn't immense, but you do get tilt. So yeah, the Tarn mold is pretty well articulated. I feel like it's probably a good fit for Bludgeon. And that's Cyberverse Tarn. Tarantulas is Legacy Tarantulas. The colors here are wild. It's very similar to that Black Arachne I mentioned before, where it's just so out there with this kind of drab green, the bright orange, silvery gray. It's so strange. But I appreciate it for what it is. It's just very weird. I don't necessarily like this color scheme, but at the same time, I think it kind of works in its own weird, like incredibly weird way. Also, one thing that they did not do in Legacy Tarantulas, but they did here, they painted the lines on the thighs. I don't know, they didn't do that on Legacy Tarantulas originally, so I think it's cool that they bothered to do it there. You also get the little Predacon logo on his hip. So yeah, he is a strange looking fellow. He cleans up nice. He's got this kind of hump backpack, but that's not much considering. And yes, he has the spider legs, but those are supposed to be there. I'm not a super big fan of them because I feel like they get in the way, but they are accurate. So what can you do? Oh, also they painted the eyes in the waist section, though it is a little bit weird that the waist section for the spider mode is this silver, whereas in the waist section in the robot mode is silver, whereas in the spider mode it's orange. So like the spider head changes colors between modes. It's weird. Anyway, the robot mode head is weird looking. Can you imagine if this is what Tarantulas looked like throughout Beast Wars? It's interesting. I prefer Tarantulas' like official head that they ended up going with, but this is interesting. And also, I mean, this is the prototype, so this is probably more toy accurate than cartoon accurate. The back, though, that looks very much like they just, it's the same back of the head, they just did a different faceplate, which is fine. The color's nice. It kind of, can't tell if this is green plastic that they painted or not, but like the purple with the dark metallic gray for the face and then like the blue eyes is neat. Though the blue eyes do get lost a bit. You can see them, but they don't pop as much as I would like. But it's an interesting design. As I said, not to my taste, but it's interesting. As for articulation, the head is on a ball joint, but you're not going to get any real waggle. Can look up a little bit and can rotate 180 degrees. The arms can rotate all the way around and can go out about that far. These spider legs definitely get in the way. But because of the transformation, you get a reverse butterfly, which is cool. I always like when you get that. You get a bicep rotation, then you get basically another bicep rotation, and then you get the elbow that bends slightly past 90. All of the spider legs are ball jointed, so they can kind of fold in if you want. And that's generally what I like to do with Tarantulas, or what I liked to do with Tarantulas when I had him, was rotate the spider legs back and curl them in, because that way he just takes up less space on a shelf. Cleans up the silhouette a little bit. I know it's not accurate, but it's just how I tended to do it, just to clean things up a bit. But anyway, get these arms out of the way. You do get you get waist rotation. Doesn't go all the way around, but it's pretty decent, the amount that you get. For it's not as good as, say, Tarn, but I think you could still get pretty expressive with with that much waist swivel. The hips can move forward to 90, can only move back about that far because of the shell back here. Can go out to about 90. You do get a thigh rotation, and the knees are just bonkers because for the transformation, he's supposed to do a full 180 degree bend. So you got lots of bend at the knees, and the feet can go back and forward. And you do also get a lot of ankle tilt. So he's got very, very expressive limbs, particularly the legs. Yeah, pretty darn posable for what he is. Very, very colorful. And now Cliffjumper, who is also Chase. I really like this guy. I wish that this, whatever it is on his foot, wasn't there, but came out of the box that way, and I don't feel like going through a hassle to try and get it replaced or fixed or anything like that. But this mold does work really well for Cliffjumper. The only thing that bugs me are these flaps back here, and I don't mind them aesthetically. I think it actually works well because they're like exhaust pipes and they kind of look like wings, but they do block the arm movement a bit. Like if you want to go backwards, you kind of have to go out and around, and it's very awkward. They don't get in the way if you rotate the arms forward, but they do get in the way going backwards. And that's just kind of annoying. Like, you can only go back about that far before they start becoming a problem. I just wish they tucked away a little bit better. But yeah, this works for Cliff. He doesn't have the horns on his belt anymore. I don't mind that too much. They're down here now, but they don't stand out. I don't think they stand out enough to be a problem. It's something where I didn't even really notice them when I first took him out of the box. It was when I transformed him, and I was like, oh, there are the horns. And then when I transformed him back into a robot, I was like, oh yeah, that's where they sit. But yeah, it works. The color separation here is great because you get a lot more of this like darker gunmetal-y gray in the legs and waist section, but then also this piece up here that's painted to kind of bring the rest of the midsection together. You get some in the forearms as well, and even like the biceps, which are part of the vehicle, but this is like hidden by the flaps back here when he's transformed. He looks good, and aside from this junk, he's actually relatively clean. The head is the one thing that I'm kind of like, like the shape is Cliffjumper, Prime Cliffjumper. It's just I'm not super into the face sculpt, like the head shape, I should say. Yeah, I think I said shape. The head shape is good. It's just the face is a little bit, I don't know, something about it kind of looks like they leaned a little bit too hard into the bestial nature of the head design, which I know it's legacy. They aren't the best when it comes to prime face sculpts, but like Bulkhead's was great. I feel like they could have done Cliffjumper a little bit better, but it is what it is. Also, the neck is rather thick, as you can see in there, but when this is flipped up, you don't really notice it. Coloration-wise, though, it looks good. The silver inside the red looks, rather the darker gunmetal-y gray inside the red looks good. The blue pops with everything around it. The brighter silver horns stand out, and you even get a little bit of that gunmetal for the neck. But it is a very thick neck. Not a terrible problem, but it is a bit of a thick neck. Though, unlike first edition Cliffjumper, it's not made out of translucent plastic, so you don't have to worry about it shattering. Anyway. For articulation, I'm still mad about that with my first edition Cliffjumper. You get a ball joint, which because of the fact that the giant neck stump is part of the head, you only get a tiny bit of side to side and look up and down a bit, and you can rotate 180 degrees or 360 degrees. And actually, as I'm looking at this, it almost looks like the back of his head is a face, doesn't it? Like, doesn't that kind of look like some kind of angry masked gladiator thing? I wonder if that's going to end up being some weird remold. So, you get shoulders. As I said, you can rotate around, but going backwards is a problem because of these flaps. They can go out only about that far, and they are also trigger-happy shoulders, so you kind of have to work around those limitations. You get bicep swivels, elbows that bend to 90. The wrists don't rotate, but they do this. I don't entirely understand why they do that, but they do it. And then the waist. You do get a waist, and it's funny. I saw on TFW people were saying they don't like how the waist was handled, and I didn't understand why at first, and then I actually rotated it. So you do get 180 degree or I keep saying 180, 360 degrees of waist rotation, but if you notice, the way the waist is done, it's kind of the actual where it attaches sits further back. So it looks a little bit weird and off-center when you rotate it. It's fine if you just do like, somewhat subtle rotations, but if you start getting extreme with it, it does start looking a little bit weird. Not as extreme as I've seen in like other times when they've done similar things with figures, but it can happen. Still don't get this. The hips can go forward quite a ways and go back only that far because this piece is just fixed, so you can't go any further back than that. They can go, let me get the arm out of the way here, they can go out to 90, get a thigh rotation, knees bend to, I want to say just a tiny bit past 90. Also, they can bend forward a bit, which is for the transformation, but you could also use it for like a slightly forward hero stance type deal. And the ankles, they do tilt in, but they also tilt out a lot because of the transformation, and then you can also use those heels if you wanted to for some added leaning forward, like slight lean forward type posing. It's stuff you can do. They're pretty decently posable. It's just that I don't like the flaps getting in the way. I really wish that those did something else. And I think they're not pinned in, so you could probably pop them out, but I don't want to risk forcing it right now. It's just if these they could just like rotate maybe or fold back more, but then I imagine because of how these things really solidly clip in place, it probably would have been unstable or prone to breakage if they did that for the joints when you go into vehicle mode rather. But I don't know. I do like this Cliffjumper. He's just a little bit hampered by Chase's design. Now for the accessories, you can keep all these things plugged in if you want. The way this works is you just take a little opening here and this slides over the fist. And that gives him one of the horns. I feel like they could have, I mean, I guess because of the mold, they didn't want to do it or they couldn't do it, but like him coming with two of these would have been nice. As it stands, he comes with this other junk that came with Chase, and that's just kind of meh. But can't do that. And if you wanted to, you could do what you do with Chase and plug these bits in to give him a claw instead of a blaster. So you could do that. I don't really like that at all. You can plug these things in various places. You can plug them in up here. You could plug them in down here. They don't look great. Though I actually kind of dig the asymmetry here where it looks like he's got one beefy claw arm. Don't know that I'm going to keep it like that, but I kind of dig it. I wonder if we rotate this, and it's more like he has fingers. Yeah, I don't know. You can do stuff. I am not the biggest fan of the stuff you can do with these accessories, and honestly, I don't entirely know if I'm even going to do this. But it's stuff that you can do. Just for now, I'm going to reattach these things. It's all smoky, dark, translucent plastic too, so something to be careful of in the future. But yeah, I definitely don't think, like, I do like this figure. I don't think he was worth the cost of the entire box set, but I don't think any one figure from the set was worth the cost of the entire box sets. But I'm glad to have him. And as I said at the beginning of the video, I'm actually kind of surprised by how glad I am to have the other ones too, because like Squeezeplay was just going to be this is the thing that I got just for the sake of like that it comes with the box set. I had no interest in Squeezeplay, have no interest in Tarantulas really either, and Tarn, like I already owned Tarn. But Squeezeplay was one that I looked at and was just like, I don't really care. So I'm just going to sell them off, and they'll recoup some of my costs for the box set. And then I had them and transformed them because once I saw the mess on Cliffjumper, I kind of wanted to make sure that all of the figures in the box set were okay. And so took him out, messed around with him, and now I kind of want to keep him. He's just a goofy, weird little guy, but for some reason, even though he's derived from Mindwipe, I actually think he does things a lot better than Mindwipe. It doesn't hurt that his arms / robot mode legs work a lot better than Mindwipe's bat wings. It was a clever idea, but doing it in the soft plastic just seems like it was not the best choice. But this guy is very cool. Again, the colors are great. You get a little bit less of this pinkish purple now because the giant splotch that was the head is now on his back. But I like it. I like how these pieces kind of moving around and folding in slim up the robot mode a bit. And I even don't mind having these little like towers sitting behind his shoulders. There's something about it that just kind of appeals to me. And like You can totally tell that his feet are opened monster claws, but I actually kind of love that. The extra splash of color you get from the shield is also really nice. It's just a really nice color breakup, really nice color palette. Again, like I said, I don't mind the beige color that they used here because it just, in my mind, fits. Also, I don't know where I was going with that also. But yeah, I like the color scheme on this guy. It all works really well together. Now, if we zoom in, you can see that torso is definitely different from a lot of other Titan's Return figures because it's not the same anymore. Like, I think there were some, it may have even been Mindwipe, that had the cockpit on the back in robot mode that was in the front in the alt mode. But it is irregular compared to most other Titan's Return figures, or figures from, like, based around Titan's Return. But I do like that they did, like, the stat readouts, and even can kind of barely see that there are some molded bar graph lines in there. I've been talking for a while. The only thing that stinks about this is I kind of wish that the blue, yellow, and purple they used here were a little bit more vibrant. It's just kind of dull. That purple, or the blue rather, on the chest is brighter than what's going on in that readout, and I just feel like it should be the other way around. I dig the tiny Decepticon logo on his tummy, though. And if you wanted to, you could lift it up. It doesn't show his speed or strength or intelligence, but you do get that. And I'm assuming this is because Headmaster Jr., they probably did things a little bit differently, but I kind of feel like thematically this should be something that gets revealed when you lift this up. But then I guess it would be more obvious that it was there in the animal beast mode. I don't know. Like I said, it's a Headmaster Jr. figure, so this might actually be more front and center in the robot modes than it was in the original Headmasters that had them like hidden behind panels. I don't know. The head, I don't know how accurate this is, but it looks good. The silver stands out pretty nicely. Like, the only other silver you really get on this guy, especially in robot mode, is his gun. So the silver stands out, and the bright red for the eyes. It does get lost in this purple a little bit, but you can still make it out. He looks like a serious grumpy guy. I don't know if that's correct, but I think it fits based on the monster mode. Looks good. Molding's good. And then I think there was like a Titan Master from when they did like the standalone Titan Masters and Titan's Return that is for Squeezeplay, I think. So I don't have that, but you could use that if you wanted, if you had it. And for articulation, it's a Titan Master articulation on the head. So it's a ball joint, and look left and right, you get a little bit of side to side. No real up or down movement, but if you unseat the connection a little bit, you can kind of fake a little bit of down and some up. It's mostly for rotation. The arms are big old ball joints, so they can go all the way around. They can go out that far, and then you can use that other joint to go even further out. And they're not trigger-happy shoulders, unless you want them to be, because you can use these. But these are, like, again, they're not floppy, but they're looser than I'd like. You get a bicep rotation that is very sticky at a certain point around both biceps, but you get that rotation, and this is kind of what I was talking about before, where you get that visible open mushroom peg on the outside of both the legs and the arms, just because of the design, and that's kind of meh. You get a double jointed elbow, and I saw it was that Toy Guy's video where he recommended bending, I believe, this one first and then bending this, because otherwise you risk scraping the paint at the elbow. So something to keep in mind. But as you saw, due to the transformation, you can do a very full elbow bend. You do not get any wrist rotation, but if you wanted to, you could angle the wrists down. You do get waist rotation. You can go all the way around. This snake head thing does not get in the way at all because it actually sits relatively far back. The hips can go forward to 90, can go back to almost 90, but the frill gets in the way. Can go out well past 90. You get a thigh swivel. The knees bend to 90. You get ankle tilts that actually go almost 90 degrees. And then you can also use the claws to bend the toes forward, point them, whatever. You can kind of use them as like an angling thing. If you want them to like angle forward, you could do that. It's a bit extreme, but they kind of click into place, so you don't really have a whole lot of options in terms of like different angles. But yeah, he is pretty well poseable. And as I said, like the shield and the gun, there they are. I like the shield, even though it's a little bit small. It's more of like a buckler, but I think it works. The gun is tiny, but I don't know how accurate it is. It probably is at least semi-accurate, but I do think it looks nice. And you can do the blast effect thing on it. Whoop. Do the blast effect thing on it. And the tip of the gun is not painted, so you don't have to worry about it stripping paint. And also you can plug blast effects into the shield like he's blocking stuff. And he's got ports on the underside of the feet. So yeah, you can do all that. And actually I realized I didn't do blast effect stuff with Cliffjumper or Tarantulas, but Cliffjumper, you can plug blast effects into the ports on the gun, or if you don't use the hooks, you can plug them in there. There, Tarantulas. You can kind of wedge blast effects on the tips of the spider legs, so you could do that if you wanted to have him like blasting at stuff. You don't get any blast effect stuff on the buzzsaw. Will it work on the crossbow? It does actually kind of work on the crossbow. You do have to wedge it a little bit, but it does work. So yeah, you get some blast effects working. You get some blast effect compatibility with Tarantulas, and then with Tarn. Angle this up a bit more. With Tarn, we already saw it in the tank mode, but you can plug the blast effects into the cannon barrels, however they're configured, and also you can plug them into these bits on the top there. So that is how all the blast effects shake out. Now it is time for size comparisons. So let's get Tarn back here. And Tarantulas, Cliffjumper, and Squeezeplay. There is everybody. Bring in Dinobot with that sword so that it's not going to bump into everything. So there's Dinobot and Ova Prime, who is again the stand-in for Tall Deluxes. There's Samus, and there's Burnout, the typical deluxe. And as far as like comparable heights go, Burnout and Tarantulas are about the same height, and Burnout and Cliffjumper are about the same height too, but Squeezeplay is a little bit taller. And then Tarn and Dinobot are roughly the same height. So yeah, Tarn still qualifies as like a taller Voyager. And Squeezeplay kind of sits between a regular deluxe and a tall deluxe. So there is that. Now, I have some thematic size comparisons to do here. So we're going to do this one at a time, then bring everyone back for the final one. We're going to start with Tarn. So, Legacy Tarn, he is, because he is the Cyberverse version of Tarn, here he is with Legacy Chromia, who is also from Cyberverse. So there is how those two stack up. Then bring in Tarantulas, and we already saw him, but we'll do a more direct comparison. Here is Tarantulas with Dinobot. And it's also kind of interesting because these two come in a 2-pack together now. So yeah, that's how those two stack up side by side. Bring in Cliffjumper. And again, this is Legacy Cliffjumper. I do not have any other Legacy Prime figures currently, but I do have First Edition RC. So there's Cliff with First Edition RC, and First Edition RC is definitely taller. Different times, etc. I have no idea how accurate this is. I want to assume because RC's a motorcycle and Cliffjumper's a car, that he is probably taller than her in the cartoon, but I don't think they ever actually showed the two characters side by side in the cartoon. So I don't know for sure. But here's how these two look together. And then for Squeezeplay, get him back in here. For Squeezeplay, bringing in the one Titan's Return figure I still have, and that is Titan's Return RC, or Blur, whatever. And interestingly enough, Squeezeplay is a little bit shorter. Not much, but a little bit. Of course, I don't have any other Titan's Return figures to pull out for a comparison, so I don't know how that compares to like other molds, just the Blur mold, but there you go. All right, let's bring everyone else back in here again. Not have a bunch of awkward stuff showing from just off camera. So there's Tarn. Squeezeplay can tuck in there. Keep the purple boys together. And Tarantulas. And Cliff. So there is the entire 4-pack crew with the duck tank. And that does it for whatever this 4-pack is called. I think it's like Cliffjumper Attack or something like that. I don't know. Like I said, it'll be in the description or the title of the video. But yeah, this is a strange assortment of figures that don't really make sense together. But I'm still charmed by it. As I said, it's a little bit silly, but I think that's almost admirable that they decided, like, let's just do a bunch of these figures and they're fighting this one guy. But I am glad I got this set. I ended up getting mine through Target, specifically the website, because this set was like just absurd aftermarket prices on eBay and Amazon and stuff like that. And then I was like, wait a minute, I wonder if this is a Target thing. And I looked it up on Target, and it was available for pre-order for the regular MSRP. So I was just like, yes, I will get that, and then I will sell off the figures I don't want, and everything will be good. And now I don't know what I'm going to do, because I'm definitely keeping Cliffjumper, but I don't know that I want to sell off everyone else. It's hard to say. Tarantulas is probably the one I'm most likely to sell off, because I'm as amusing as the design is and the homage and the colors and everything, I'm just not feeling it. I appreciate it and I find it enjoyable, but I'm just not feeling it. So I don't know. But Tarn, great mold. I still don't really know how I feel about these colors. I kind of like the fact that it's like a much darker overall color scheme, but a brighter head. But I also kind of want to wait and see what happens with the repro labels. But then, I don't know. I just don't know about Tarn. And Squeezeplay, I don't have any attachment at all to Squeezeplay. I don't really have any other Titan's Return figures. I have no more Monster Bots, so I don't really have a reason to hang on to him. But he's strangely compelling all the same. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I am very happy, if nothing else, with Cliffjumper, even with a couple of gripes. But that is more than enough talking. I need to definitely drink more water when I'm done, because I've been talking for an hour and a half straight now. But that is it. That has been my thoughts on whatever this 4-pack is called. What do you all think of this 4-pack, whether it's like the different figures that have appeared elsewhere that were taken for the different figures in this 4-pack, or Squeezeplay specifically, because he's the technically newest mold of the lot. He's at least the one with the most changes. But whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And yeah, I'm definitely going to drink some water.